Hi, I'm John Bucher, author of Master of the Cinematic Universe, The Secret Code to Writing in the New World of Media. Today I want to talk to you about the 5 steps to determine the best medium for your story. If you're like me, most writers wake up and we often have this great idea for a story. We have either this character or this scenario that's come to mind, and we're not quite sure what might be the best place to tell this story. Many of us lean on the old mediums that we've relied on before. If we're a script writer, maybe we're going to automatically try and bring this story into the film world. For television writer, maybe we're going to try and bring this into television. I'm going to give you 5 steps to help you determine perhaps if there's a better medium for your story than the medium that you've been using. Step 1, determine the potential mediums that your story could be told in. Obviously, there's the medium of film. We have short films, we have feature films, and even within feature films, we have experimental films, documentary films, narrative films. There's the medium of television, but within television, we have reality television, documentary television, narrative television. Even within narrative television, we have network television, cable television, and even within that, we have 30-minute shows, 60-minute shows. Aside from film and television, the web has become one of the most exciting mediums to tell stories in. We can actually create content that doesn't fit well in either traditional film or television formats. The 5th and last element that I'd like to suggest to you is a potential medium to tell your story in that you might not have considered before is print. Many stories just work best as a novel or as a short story, as a comic, as a graphic novel. These are often stories that take place within a character and tell about the character's inside journey. Step 2, to determine the best medium for your story. Examine the elements of your story. Does your character have a strong protagonist, a strong antagonist, an external goal that the character is trying to achieve? These are 3 basic things that no matter what type of story you're telling, you probably should look at having. Remember, an antagonist doesn't necessarily have to be a human being, but it usually works best when the antagonistic force is represented by a human being. The 3rd step in determining the best medium for your story is to take an honest look at the strongest elements of your story. Perhaps your story is really working with the protagonist. You have these really interesting characters, but maybe the plot is not as strong. Perhaps it's the plot that's really working well, but the characters are just not that interesting. I think if you ask yourself this question, you can really determine what's working best about my story and what medium would it fit best into. Ask yourself this question. If I could only keep 3 things in my story, what would they be? If those 3 things are very external, then perhaps you want to look at film, television, the web. But if those things are very internal to your characters and the story you're trying to tell, perhaps print is actually a better medium for the story that you're trying to tell. Step 4. Look at the family of stories that your story fits into. What TV shows is your story like? What films are your story like? Perhaps there's a comic or a graphic novel that it resembles. It's very important for writers to be able to pitch their stories as part of a family of other stories. This helps us know that there's a market for the story. It helps us know that people have determined and shown interest in this type of story before. The 5th and final step I'd like to suggest to you for determining the best medium for your story is to evaluate your pitch to other people. Come up with an elevator pitch. See if people respond to the pitch and ask them this question. Do you think this story would make a good film? You'd be surprised how many people might say, I'd actually make a better television show, or it would actually make a better book. Listen to the opinions that you get if you hear them more than once. Obviously, some opinions you're going to get a one-off here and there, but if you start to hear patterns and trends in the opinions people give you about your story, it's really important to listen to those opinions. These are the 5 steps to determine the best medium for your story. I'm John Bucher. If you would like to talk to me about this further, you can reach out to me on Twitter at John, Johnkbucher, Bucher. Also, check out my website, tellingabetterstory.com. Thanks so much for tuning in, and keep telling stories.